Okay. Well, I'll just tell everybody good evening. I hope everybody's had a good week so far and good day today. I know it's been hot. Mm-hmm. Some this weekend too, I think. Showers. Well, I'm gonna read over the announcements for the week. We already started the revival at Tannersville. It started Sunday and it's over tonight with Bud Gentry at 7. And then Thursday through Saturday, there's a revival at Oak Grove at 7 p.m. with Hobart Kennedy, Dennis Wimmer, and Greg Hibbets all speaking. And then Saturday morning at 10 a.m. is the ladies' fall Bible study. When Your Way isn't working, and it's chapters 1 and 2. And then the upcoming events is September the 18th through the 22nd is Revival at Macedonia at 7 p.m. with Ethan Rolfe. September the 19th is Meals on Wheels. September the 23rd is the Ladies' Fall Bible Studies. It'll be chapters 3 and 4. And I think that's a week. I think Ruth drops a week or skips a week in between, not every Saturday. And then September the 27th through the 29th is Revival at Big Branch at 7 p.m. with Charlie Cooper, Hobart Kennedy, and Robert Rife. And then our last Sunday night concerts with the David Melton family is October the 8th. And we have TCTC, the early bird sign up, is until October the 2nd, and that's $35 if you sign up early. And I think that's most of all the announcements, except for they're still collecting those supplies for the homeless that they're going to go to in Roanoke and Washington and locally here. They're 6x8 tarps, McDonald's gift cards, gloves, big bottles of water, and Bibles. They said they wanted some Bibles that they were going to try to put that with the package that they were going to be handing out to each one. Okay, I think that's all the announcements. We'll start off our song service, and I apologize, we won't have it on the board tonight or on the screen or on the back wall because of I'm here and not back there, but we'll do it the old school way like Bob did this weekend, last Sunday morning, Sunday evening. First song will be 470, and that's Victory in Jesus. And I'll give everybody a minute to find it. 470, Victory in Jesus. And we'll sing the first and the third verse. Let's go to 957. 957. This world is not my home. Yep, we will sing all three since the piano player requested it. Thank you, Helen, for picking that song. It was good. And it goes a little bit with the message tonight, believe it or not. It always winds up and intertwines together. Our invitation song will be 948, I Am Resolved. 948. Oh, you know what I didn't do? And I'm sorry and I apologize. And we're going to do that right now. Yeah, that was our prayer song. If anybody's got any prayer list or someone that they need to add to the prayer list, let me know. I'm sorry I slipped up on that one. We'll go over them. We've got a big prayer list. I know a lot of people need it. See, no. I've got a blank one here, though. SY. On the 18th? 18th at Wake Forest. 13th at Wake Forest. Okay. That's Cedra Moore. She's got an appointment on the 13th at Wake Forest to find out if she has cancer or not. Okay, we've got Trish Poe's mother, Leanne Nietzsche. She had a bad spell Sunday. I think it was Sunday. They were celebrating her mother's, or Trish Poe's grandmother's 100th birthday. But I seen a little update, said that she was really bad dehydrated. I think she's doing some better. Chris is gone, but I think she's doing a little better. Shannon and Sandy Ratliff are traveling. Darlene Van Dyke was supposed to have her PIC line out yesterday, but I hadn't seen anything. I hadn't heard or seen anything, whether she did or not. I know Paul was praying that she got it out yesterday. And then Ricky Van Dyke, his kidneys. Iris Boyd, not feeling very good. Patricia Dale's not feeling good. Robert Buckles was taken to the emergency room this morning. He had some breathing complications. I think it's a friend of Brother Bill Meade. Mabel Fleming, she's just having a bunch of declining health problems. And that's Brother Bill Meade's aunt. Debbie Blair, I hadn't heard an update from Debbie or about Debbie from Freddie or anything. I hadn't seen anything on that, but I know that whole family really needs prayers for sure. Leah K. Matton has Parkinson's and a cold. Brittany Justice and a newborn. The baby's name is Kinsley, who's having a lot of health issues. Unspoken request for a classmate of Michael Lee for peace in a bad situation. Lauren Casey, she was headed back to college, and she goes to college in New York. So I'm sure Wade or Cookie put that on there to pray for her for safe travels. Brian Heath. Brian, Heather, and Isabella. I don't have a last name. Traveling back from New York, sorry. Mike and Terry Lee. Mike has his appointment at Wake Forest. What's today? Tomorrow? Is it Thursday or Friday? I think it's Friday. I think he has his appointment Friday. Little Mike told me back there Sunday morning. I'm pretty sure it's Friday. The family of Woody Grindstaff, Sandy Dotterty and Debbie Rohr are both traveling for the next couple of weeks. Herma Freeman, COVID and in a hospital in Bristol. Did she? Okay. She got to go. Is that, Danielle, is that your cousin? She got to go home, but she's 96. I think she was 96, or is 96. And Johnny Stacy's got an appointment with his heart doctor. Tom Whitten was in a hospital in Richlands, but they transferred him to Richmond Sunday evening. Brandon was telling us that they transferred him out there. Gallstones, I think, is what it was. Dorothy Deal and the girls are sick. The family of Susan Tabor. Becky Kennedy, and that's Vivian's daughter-in-law. Did it go good? Oh, okay. So it went well, and they think she may have a leaky valve. I knew that was Vivian's daughter-in-law. Alan Gross will be traveling to Africa, and I'm not sure exactly when he's leaving, but he's leaving. He'll be gone for 2 weeks. He's going, and I forget, he's leaving Friday. And how many times is he speaking over there? He told me it's 3 or 4, something like that. He's going to a bunch of different places to do speaking engagements with the church. And we need to make sure we pray for him, for sure. And then again, Mike and Terry Lee, will have tests when he gets to Wake Forest. And the Southwest Community College soccer teams, they both were traveling today, so they're on their way back home. So just pray for them for travel, safe travel. Derek McCoy, uh, Brother Paul and Sister Wilma Smith's grandson, he had an accident swimming and is paralyzed. He's in ICU, at UVA in the ICU, and he's already had a surgery. And Brother Paul, he sat right in here somewhere. And then Ada Stacy, her legs and back are hurting. Need to pray for Ada. And baby Brooks and his mom and dad, he was born on 9/5 at 26 weeks. He was 1 pound 3 ounces. So sure need to pray for that little fella for sure. And David Lowe doesn't say anything else. Okay. Does anybody have anybody else they need to add?
I got a couple of updates from Brittany. Darlene did not get the big one out. It has to be done at the hospital, so she said they're waiting on the call from the hospital.
Okay.
And Tom went and he had surgery. It went good. Originally the traction was way on now.
Oh, okay. Was it gallstones
It was
or some?
it was some kind of stones.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Tom Whitten had his surgery and he's on his way home from Richmond. And let me find Sister Darlene. And Sister Darlene did not get her PICC line out because it has to be done in the hospital, and she went to a doctor's appointment, didn't she?
I don't know if Paul wants to handle what. She said they came and found out that the board after her that you have to be removed at the hospital.
Oh, okay. So it was probably a different type of PICC line that has to be, they thought that it was one that they could remove at home. Well, we'll definitely be praying for her, for sure. Okay. Okay, does anyone else have anybody or anything else we need to add to the prayer list? Okay, yeah, I think Chris had, Chris works with somebody that gets a little updates every now and then. I didn't know if you heard any more. That's the last thing we had heard, that Kelly Queen had got off the ventilator, so that's good news. Huh? Oh, big step, yep, that's for sure. Okay, does anybody else have anything else? Okay, Larry, would you give a prayer for our prayer list, please?
Thank you, Father, for this beautiful day that God has given us opportunity to be outside and thank you for these who are able to make it out. Father, thank you for every June, taking over this everything and doing the right thing and praying for us. Father, we know that there's many, God, that are desperate to know you with your help, Father. Some of them without your hand, maybe not with
Amen. Thank you, Larry. Okay. We are going to talk about the friend of sinners. Who do you think the friend of sinners is going to be? When he was on the earth, that's all he done. That's Jesus. But we're going to see some things that, and maybe try to apply it in our lives today, that happened to him when he was walking the earth. And see how people try to stumble you? How do people try to catch you in situations? And sometimes I've even had people try to tear you down, especially if they're not a Christian. They look for a crack, and I don't understand that, but sometimes it happens. Friendship holds a very special place in our lives. The knowledge that someone will be there through the best of times, and especially through the worst of times, brings us comfort, happiness. Friends prove themselves when times get hard, and that's the truth. When you can count on somebody when it's been a bad time, you got a true friend. And I'm going to tell you about these two guys that went hunting. They were out hunting in the Northwest. Suddenly, one of them yelled, "Look out, I see a grizzly coming." The first one started frantically. He started taking his boots off and started putting on his tennis shoes. And the other guy said, "What are you doing? The bear's running. It's coming right at us." And he said, the guy told him, he said, "Don't put your shoes on. You can't outrun that grizzly bear." He said, "I don't have to outrun the grizzly bear. I just have to outrun you." So I don't know how much of a friend he is, but he was sure going to make sure that he could outrun him. Some of us have been able to build these kinds of relationships. I know that I have at least a couple of people that I can absolutely trust with the deepest parts of my life. Sometimes they have no idea what I'm even talking about, but they'll listen anyway. And love me no matter what problem or sin that I'm dealing with. The one thing you don't ever hear, the one thing that you don't often hear when I listen to people speak about Christianity and friendship. When we consider the main different aspects of Jesus' character and personality, Jesus is called the friend of sinners. Jesus even was called this in Luke 7:34 by the elite religious people of the day. They hated that Jesus would spend his time and days with those less religious than they were. And he interacted with many people which proved the evidence of such truth. They were really upset that he wasn't spending time with them, because they were the religious people, the elite religious people of the day, and they thought Jesus should spend his time with them instead of with the sinners or the people that were, sick and afflicted, and that just tormented these people to no end. So what they did is they tried to catch him. They tried to do things to try to make sure see if he had a crack in his armor or a flaw in his character. But does Jesus really love and care for those who are imperfect? Is Jesus really a friend of the sinners? If you read the Bible, you don't have to, that question is answered right away. Tax collectors. Back in the day, they were some of the lowest sinners. They tried to cheat people. They tried to steal people. They tried to steal the money from people. And this is one encounter that he had. These men were probably some of the most hated people in the Jewish society. The Romans had conquered Israel and completely taken over their governing structure. They were hated severely, but still needed to collect taxes for the military recruits to continue their conquest and support their rule. So instead of using their own people, they would get some greedy Jew to volunteer for the job. Beyond the fact that people felt that they were betrayed by the Jew turned Roman, these men only made money by taking it from people. Many of them turned greedy and would charge 2 or 3 times what they were required to collect because they become rich. They would take the extra money and become rich. They become engrossed in getting more money and living the lavish lifestyle. You'll find one of these stories in Luke 19. This is the story of the man named Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a wee little man who wanted to get a close look at Jesus. He was a tax collector in the area around Jericho on the far southwestern side of Israel. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down here, for today I must stay at your house." And he hurried and came down and received him gladly. When they saw it, they began to grumble, saying that he has gone to the quest of a man who is a sinner. See, they were already looking for a reason to start doubting Jesus. They was already looking for a reason to try to figure out why he was with a sinner instead of with the elite religious people. Examining the attitude of Jesus in a comparison with the Pharisees around him, Jesus spoke to Zacchaeus with kindness and caring, but the Pharisees spoke to him with negative and hateful. Money seemed to be one of the most diverse and problematic of mankind's troubles. Men and women struggle with it 2,000 years ago and still struggle with it each and every day. Some, just like Zacchaeus, have unnatural desire for the love of money. The love of money is the root of all sorts of evils. Zacchaeus definitely fit the bill when it comes to someone who loves money, and yet Jesus loves him and treated him kindly. And the Pharisees and the elite religious people, they could not understand why Jesus was spending time with them. If nobody spends time with somebody that's not saved, how do you have somebody that gets saved? The next time that Jesus was put out there or was tried to get, he was struggling with the prostitutes. There were more disliked and disdained people in the world of ancient Rome, at least in the province called Judah. Men and women gave themselves to impulse desires by acting as temple prostitutes. According to the history we would act out sexual situations as religious rites, and they were honoring fertility gods. They would have their heads shaved among various other markings so that others would know who they were and what they did. Of course, the Pharisees would have absolutely nothing to do with them. They were religious, the religious who lived by the God's law. These women sulked in the corners at the entrances of certain parts of the town, hoping to catch business of travelers and merchants. Many of them had no other way to take care of themselves. Women couldn't really have jobs back then because it was a male-dominated society. So if their male relatives died or dumped them on the street, they had little or no way of doing anything for work or money. Jesus encounters at least one such woman who had been caught in the very act of adultery by some zealous Jews. They dragged the woman, literally threw her at the foot of Jesus. You see, they had a plan of catching Jesus, failing to be good to this Jew. He totally ignored them and sat down in the sand and started writing. They relentlessly asked him to make a verdict on the guilt of the woman they had brought before him. When they had persisted in him asking him, he straightened up and said to them, He who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw the stone at her. Again, he swooped down and started writing on the ground. When they had heard this, they began to go one by one, beginning with the older ones And he was left alone with the woman after they all figured out that they couldn't throw a rock if they hadn't done some sin. So they all decided that he was right and they were going to leave. So he was there with her by himself. And he looks up and he says, have they left? And the woman, she answered and said, yes. Straightening up, Jesus said unto her, the woman, where are they? Did no one condemn you? She said, no, no one, Lord, not one. Jesus said, do not commit or condemn you. I do not condemn you either. Go from now and sin no more. Christ basically said, I forgive you of your sins. Don't go and get in any more trouble. While everyone else around this young woman was hateful and condescending, Jesus was forgiving and loving. The realm of sexual sin is almost as old as mankind. This woman may have been an extreme case, but many people struggle with the addictions. If you ever dare to watch television, you will encounter graphic images of women and men who are scantily clad. Yet when you struggle with this, you can feel worthless and guilt-ridden and complete failure as a human being. Jesus doesn't treat this woman that way, the way the Pharisees had. So they're still trying to set him up, basically, just plain language. They're trying to do everything they can to see if they can, turn his character or defame his character or defame him, but they haven't got there. And they won't. Now, the Pharisees are struggling with their pride and tradition. You pick up one of these religious men because they have all the looks of good religious people, but they are really weren't very dedicated to the God that they claim to serve. They were dedicated to their traditions and laws, customs. Beyond the Old Testament, they claimed to devour, follow. They had never had over 600 more laws for people to follow. They had devoutly followed up to 600 more laws. That's a lot of laws if you're just writing them for no reason. Those who couldn't do it or didn't follow the strict regulations were considered inferior and godless. Most started out earnestly desiring to serve God, and yet they were sucked up into the web of religious pride and zeal. It became so easy for them because they were reverted by others. So they weren't doing their job. The elite religious people, they weren't helping Jesus, and they weren't helping the people that they were supposed to be helping. Their pride swelled as people looked up to them as truly religious men. They generally sat back and pointed out people's sins without lifting a finger to help them. Jesus had an incredible number of run-ins with these men. They were all religious leaders of the day and saw Jesus as a threat to their leadership positions. They were scared of him because, anybody would be if you weren't living the life that you should be living. They would use every tactic in the book to try to destroy Jesus. The most infamous encounter is the man known as Nicodemus. This isn't a man at the bottom of the totem pole. Not only was Nicodemus a Pharisee, but he was a ruling Pharisee. He was one of the top Pharisees in the religious ruling. He was part of the elite 70 men who ruled the Jewish people. He comes to Jesus at night, not wanting to get caught talking to him, and begins questioning him. So now he's either trying to figure out what he can do to defame Jesus, because he's sneaking around and doing it at night because he didn't want anybody else to see him do it. This encounter was recorded in John chapter 3, where the most famous verse in the world is found. Jesus tried his best to explain this to the Pharisees. That man could not see it. Jesus said to Nicodemus, "Are you the teacher of Israel and do not understand these things? Truly, truly, I say to you, we speak of what we know and testify to what we have seen. And you do not accept your testimony? I would call this busted." Jesus may not seem all lovey-dovey here, but there is something called tough love. This means correcting someone even if it hurts. These men and women were God's religious leaders. We were supposed to show the world who God is and let the world show God where the world is, and yet they were busy worrying about petty laws that they had made up. His love carries these men through, even through their own spiritual stagnant. They were spiritually stagnant. They weren't helping people. All they were trying to do was they wanted Jesus to fall back into what they believed that the way it should be, instead of, keep him away from the sinners, keep him away from the people that truly needed him, keep him away from the sick, and try to get him into their fold with the other elite 70 men. They would be like people today sitting in church for years and never telling anyone about the love of Christ. And then they tried again. This is struggling with the meaning of the purpose of life. There would be an endless number of examples to give the discussion where Jesus really was a friend to the down and out crowd, the crowd of all the humans that have sinned. Those who have struggled with money, pride, and traditions are just a small cross-section of the people who Jesus encountered. He also occasionally encountered a man who was made a horrible and irreparable mistake. Judas of Iscariot, Judas Iscariot, was a part of the 12 men who followed and studied and believed in Jesus. Judas was caught pilfering the money box he was entrusted with during his stay with Jesus. He seemed to struggle with the truth and he had encountered. We know now that Judas accepted 30 pieces of silver in exchange for betraying Jesus. He would lead a group of soldiers with torches and weapons and have them arrest Jesus in the middle of the night. He would realize then, a little later, that he had made a grave mistake, which one he could never be changed. Instead of repenting, he decided the only way out was to kill himself. Now, is that right? Jesus will forgive you for anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Just like, the sin is, when he forgives you, it's gone in his mind as far as the east is from the west. He refused to try to change the situation. He took the easy way out because he had made a very grave error. Let's be super honest here. Many of the people also made grave errors in our lives. Some have cheated on spouses. Some have destroyed other people by their words. Some have terribly hurt their own children by mean and hateful and selfish actions. Some have made grave errors and cannot be taken back. Yet, when Judas was betraying himself on the inside, we read back that Jesus never said that he hated him. Jesus never said that he wanted him dead. And Jesus never said he would not take him back. Peter denied Christ 3 times. God took him back, and cannot find anywhere else in the Bible where Jesus wanted to destroy Judas. You see, if I find a very unique consequences in every single person Jesus interacted with while he lived on this earth. No matter how many times you analyze the way Jesus treated people, you will find the 3 constant patterns. He always loved them, he always tried to help them, and he always led them to repentance and change. Look at every single example given. Read through the gospel and check out how hard Jesus tried to show people the right way. No matter who they were, no matter the circumstances, Jesus loved them. How could he have been possibly given his life for them if he didn't love them? He loved the religious elite just as much as the greedy tax collector. He loved the sinning woman just as much as he loved the fool that made the grave mistake. His reactions never spoke of surprise, elitism, snottiness, or any other derogatory reaction that could be given, because he loved everybody. He treated everybody the same. It didn't matter what you were, but he was going to be with the people that needed him the most. He really loved everyone equally. He loves everyone who sins equally. His goal was always to help them grow and understand. Time and time again, he reaches out to people trying to help them. He healed the sick day and night. He almost never got a chance to rest because it was always available to people who needed him the most. He protected the sinful woman from the mob that abducted her. He helped the tax collector realize his error in his ways. He befriended him when no one else would. He tried to help the Pharisees understand their true purpose. He was there to serve God's kingdom. He taught his own betrayer, knowing that it would happen anyway. That was Peter. Lastly, he never left them in the same state which they came to him. He always called them to turn away from their sins, change their lives. Their sins were always centered of all their troubles. The sinful woman was commanded by Jesus to stop practicing her trade. The Pharisees was primarily calling himself a teacher and yet not understanding the truth of God. The fool that had chosen to commit an error which would never be would forever place his name beside of the betrayer in the dictionary. He ended his life instead of admitting to his sin. Now that's prideful right there. He was a Pharisee and he thought that he was bigger than Jesus, and the only way out was to take his own life. Instead, all he had to do was ask Jesus to forgive him. Jesus would have forgave him. The tax collector was even prepared to make amends with the people that he had swindled, giving back their money. This is my conclusion. It's not only just Jesus, a man who loved the people. He changed them forever. This hasn't changed over 2,000 years. He still loves every single person in his creation. He wants them to change their lives forever. Jesus really is a friend of the sinners, no matter what the sin. He really did love people in Bible times, and he really does love you and me right now. Jesus can be your friend. Jesus can be your confidant, your trusted companion, your best friend. But he loves you no matter what circumstances that you have encountered and what sinful life you lead. He loves you so much that he had gave his life to erase the failures of yours and mine. So I don't know how people could go about trying to defame him, but they didn't work. It did not work. They tried how many times just in this one little thing that I've read this evening. They tried and tried and tried, but only one perfect. Only one perfect. And they could not find him. They could not find the crack in his armor. They couldn't find the crack in his character. He was the one perfect, the one and only perfect. If you want to go ahead and turn to we need our invitation. If anybody here is in need and needs to come to the Lord, you'll never regret it. It's one of the best things that you could ever do for your life. It's not easy. It's never going to be a bed of roses, for sure, but it's a lot better than the alternative. So if anybody needs to come, we will take care of it. We have a baptistry right back there that's ready and waiting. And just like Bob and Shannon and Frank, Alan, you can call anytime. They'll meet you here. We've been here Sunday nights, Sunday evenings, Friday nights through the week. We've been here anytime during the day and night. It wouldn't, I'm sure, Brother Bob, especially before his back troubles, he would have been here. It wouldn't matter what time of day or night. So if you wouldn't mind to stand, and we'll sing 948, I Am Resolved. One and four, yes.
Thank
want to thank all y'all for coming tonight and being here. Me and Larry was talking a little earlier that if we miss a service, it's like a piece of us is not right that week. Do we have, I've read all the announcements this morning. I don't know that we have any more. Does anybody have any prayers or anything they need that's come in or anything? I've sort of glanced at my phone to make sure nobody online needed. I try to keep a check on it back there in the back. Sometimes they'll put a prayer request on there. Well, we will have service Sunday morning. I hope everybody's here for Sunday school. We've been getting some good numbers at Sunday school. You can't go wrong to be here at Sunday school for sure. And be here Sunday morning and Sunday evening. I will ask Brother Jason, will you have the closing prayer, please? Thank you.